Today we're going to read Mrs. Noah's Vegetable Ark, written by Alina Pasquelli and illustrated by Steve Lavish. Does this book remind you of any other story you've read before? It reminds me of Noah's Ark and the animals going on 2 by 2. And I see that happening in the front cover. So I'm wondering why it's called Mrs. Noah's Vegetable Ark. I wonder if you have any questions before you read this story. Let's find out what happens. Mrs. Noah muttered as she watered her vegetable garden. "It's so dry these days," she complained. "I've never known it to be so dry." She looked up to where her husband was busy with his new project. "What on earth does Noah think he's doing, building an ark?" she asked out loud. "This place has never flooded. Although," she added, "we could use a bit of rain." The rain didn't come, and Mrs. Noah's watering was worth the effort. That summer the beans ran up their poles and the carrots grew so long that they almost lifted themselves right out of the ground. The fruit on the trees grew plump and ripe, and on their trailing vine, the pumpkins were magnificent. But how did those 2 rabbits get in and start nibbling on the lettuce? Can you find the rabbits nibbling on the lettuce? I see them hiding right over here. She would be unhappy because that would ruin her garden. Mrs. Noah opened the gate to shoo them out, and what a sight she saw. "Oh, Noah," she sighed, "I didn't think you'd go this far. Are you really going to load the animals onto your ridiculous rescue ark?" Noah simply nodded, the nod of someone who is very, very sure of what they are doing is right, however foolish it may seem. And Mrs. Noah got to thinking, if Noah really was right about a flood, and if he really needed to save the animals, I wonder what Mrs. Noah's thinking. What's going to happen next? Then what about her vegetable garden? Well, she set to work. She made a little bag to put over the seed heads and to collect the seeds. She put rhubarb into pots and the raspberry canes into pans. She dug up the fruit trees and wrapped the roots in sacking, earth and all. Then she got all the animals to load her vegetable garden onto the ark. I see that she has rabbits and dogs and monkeys and bears and donkeys, an elephant and birds. The very next day, the sky had been clear blue for so long, turned cloudy. From the shelter of the ark, everyone watched as the puddles grew and they joined up. Mrs. Noah dabbed her eyes as she watched for one forgotten tree, floating away, cradled in an old pumpkin vine. "Perhaps it will be all right," she said. "Plants can be very determined to survive." Let's go back and look at this. Can you infer how she's feeling just by the look on her face? Do you think she looks a little worried and sad? But then it was time for getting on with keeping her household together in the ark. Once the vegetables for stew were neatly chopped and simmering, Miss Noah had time to plant some seeds. That makes me think of a connection that I have when we plant seeds in our house to get ready for our garden. The rain was astonishing and the flood spread all over the world. As the days turned into weeks, the seed grew. They produced leaves and fruit and yet more seeds. Out on deck, the trees bore another harvest. What would have happened without all these lovely fresh vegetables and fruit? Mrs. Noah asked proudly. "We have had vitamin deficiencies, that's what." Did you know that fruit and vegetables give you vitamins that you need to keep you strong and healthy? And look, I think I even have a little friend reading a story with me today. Even when the rain stopped, the ark was left alone on a sea of water. The plants grew and grew and grew. Mrs. Noah's vegetable ark grew more magnificent, even as, unnoticed, the flood embedded away. Then, look at that beautiful ark. Plants and animals. Whoa! What was that? One day the ark ran aground on a mountaintop. When everyone had picked themselves up and tidied the scattered vegetables, Noah sent one of the doves to look for land. It came back with a fresh green twig on its beak. That that could be for my tree," cried Mrs. Noah in excitement. "And olive was the one we forgot. After all, I did prune it for the flood, so that would produce many fine shoots." "Well, my dear," said Noah, "God only told me to take care of the animals, but we can all be glad that you took care of the plants." Soon the world was dry, and a rainbow spread from heaven to earth as the animals dashed away to find new homes. Mrs. Noah was able to plant a new vegetable garden as the whole world grew green and beautiful. Look at that silly goat. The end.